This is where the ancient cities and medieval civilizations emerged and disappeared. This is the cradle of great ideas, a place where science and arts prospered, the crossroads of trade and the boldest ideas. What is Central Asia like today? What do the countries in the region have in common? What is the cultural and genetic code of the peoples living in this part of the world? Stay tuned with Central Asian Guide to find out. Kazakh jeweler and collector. Home Museum of Medieval Art. Culinary tourism in Uzbekistan, Mador Samsa. Kazakh jewelers or zirgers continue the ancient traditions of the Altai miners and the first metallurgists of Eurasia, inheriting the Saka, Sarmatian, and Siberian craftsmen of the Great Steppe. Deposits of copper, tin, and gold on the territory of Kazakhstan were developed in the Bronze Age. That's when the famous Scythian animal style appeared, which still impresses with its level of filigree, unique plasticity, and sharpness of forms. Findings from the Issyk burial mound, burial of the Saka king, also known as the Golden Man, in clothes decorated with gold plates in the form of arrows, snow leopards, argali, steppe horses, and birds, as well as findings from the Chilikti and Beshater burial mounds, Wusung gold from Kargali treasure, amazing products of the Hun period. All these are real masterpieces, an invaluable legacy of human culture. The origins of Kazakh jewelry art originate there, in the depths of centuries. An original representative of the ancient tradition of steppe jewelers, Kazakh Faberge Berik Alibay, lives nowadays in Astana. My working place is everywhere, home and the yard. Wherever I live, the first thing I do is equip at least one living room as the workshop. Here, my desk is in the corner by the window. When I was young, it was hard to create without a workshop. Because we lived in rented apartments, there was no free space. Now everything's different. Lots of space for creativity. Last day I was making a bracelet. Actually, I started it a long time ago. There are just moments when work just stops. Then I do something else. I'm waiting for inspiration. It is necessary in any business. And when at last, when I come up with the new ideas, I finish the thing. I drew this when I was a student. The boy in the center is me. These are my brothers, my grandmother, and this is my mother. Nobody is born a jeweler. As a child, I wanted to become an artist. I drew well, but then I chose jewelry art. And now I want to show you the workshop, which is located in the courtyard. My students are working there. Let's go. Are you finishing now? Let me see. Good. Now we have to solder, right? And what are you doing? Are you working on the old sketch? You see, it's crooked. You need to even it. And the ornament should be bigger. Ziyad, what are you doing? Working with stone. Good. It is necessary to even all this. All of that must be cleaned and polished. Ibek, what are you doing? Cleaning. You see, here it must be cleaned too. Nothing should stop your fingers. Everything should be smooth and elegant. Kazakh folk masters always encrusted saddles, horse harnesses, combat weapons with lots of silver. But the world of women's jewelry is especially captivating since it is the quintessence of aesthetic views of nomads. The belts were especially respected because they also had the function of an amulet and represented the life force, and metal plaques with inlay showed the social position of the owner. We must melt the silver and prepare it for new pieces. The surface will have an ornament, also there will be soldering. As a result, we should get this element. This is cover plates for the belt. Now we are soldering to connect them all. Heat it and solder. The material for soldering melts at a temperature of 600 to 700 degrees. And for silver, the melting point is 900 to 1000 degrees. When soldering, all the silver parts must be connected. If there is even a small gap between them, nothing will work out. What is the material for soldering? It's an alloy of zinc and silver. We take 10 grams of silver and add there 5 grams of zinc. In this proportion, silver will melt easily. This must be a man's belt. We have been working on one such belt for almost a month, because it is hard work. It cannot be done using a machine. Everything's done only by hands, very carefully. Therefore, handwork is always appreciated very highly. This is buckle. On the sides, it will have cover plates. It will look like this. We will clean, polish it, and insert stones. But, of course, it will have another ornament, because we do not recreate the same work. Sometimes customers ask me to make an exact copy. But I'm not interested in repeating my work. I always make some changes. Apprentices always take part in the creation of any jewelry, but the master gets the last word. Malik, you can continue. It must be soldered. This is my younger brother, Malik. He's engaged in jewelry art for about 15 years. He does not have a special education, but somehow I started to teach him. And it immediately became clear to me that Malik had great abilities. Since then, and to this day, he's engaged in jewelry art. Yes, Beken taught me everything, and I also decided to teach my sons. Now they're also engaged in this art. Our younger brother also became a jeweler, and he's good at it. This is a grinding machine. I got it from my grandfather Alimbai. As a child, when I was 5 to 6 years old, I turned this handle, helping my grandfather. He made this machine. For me, this is the most valuable thing left. I take care of it as the apple of my eye. Because it is connected with my childhood memories. Berik Alibai can be called a keeper of the West Kazakhstan tradition of the Kazakh jewelry art. As for the continuity in the jewelry art of the Great Steppe, here we see some features of the polychrome style, which was common in the era of the early nomads. The history of the Scythian Siberian animal style has two directions that originate from this animal style. One of them is an ornament tradition, and the other is realistic. It is clear that the realistic tradition has been preserved in the depiction of real animals, while the ornamental tradition was about ornamental abstractions. We hardly see images of these animals in traditional Kazakh jewelry art, but I would say that the art of Berek Alibay is characterized by a return to these origins.
Как раз возвращение к этим истокам, и у него есть такие...
We see this outstanding Scythian Siberian animal style in his works.
Известный киевский, сибирский звериный стиль.
When the National Museum opened in the Kazakh capital, Berek Alibay was offered the position of the head of the Service of Restoration and Conservation. He could not refuse because it was about preserving the cultural wealth. In addition, he devoted dozens of years to the museums of Almaty and Astana, and now for 4 years he is responsible for the state of the exhibits presented in the main museum of the country. Here, not the metal pieces are being restored, but also the ones made from fabric, paper, felt, and porcelain. This is our workshop for the restoration of jewelry and metal products. Guys, how are you? How's work? Everything's good? This is pectoral. Soon there will be an exhibition in Korea. We are preparing exhibits for it. Let's say that we got this jewelry piece in a very bad condition. The stones were broken. It lacked some elements. But our specialists have restored everything. Kazakhstan does not have educational institutions for restorers. Restorers are those who love this business. I consider myself as one of such people. I've been working with Beken for several years now. Before that, I worked in Almaty in other museums with other masters. Beken shares his experience with us, teaches us all the secrets of jewelry art. Jeweler and museum worker Berek Alibay has created a home museum in the courtyard of his own house. The master did not ruin or rent out the first house in Astana, where he lived with his big family after moving from Almaty. It became a home for a collection of antiquities which he collected almost since his student years. This is my old house. I built it myself. Then I turned it into a museum. It has various valuable things. My grandfather Alimbay was a zerger, a jeweler. This is his portrait. A boy in the background is me. Grandfather was a master. He also made rings and bracelets and decorated saddles with harness. My grandfather passed this art to me. Grandfather Alimbay passed away when I was 7 or 8 years old. After graduation, I went to Almaty to enroll in the art school, and there I found out it has a faculty of jewelry. And since then, since the 80s, I have been engaged in this art. All the pieces that you see here are made by my hands. I bring my favorite things to my museum. They are not for sale. The people must see this, not just the chosen people, but this headdress, saukele. I made it for the wedding of my eldest daughter, Anel. Here are my works. I use only natural stones, for example, the local turquoise. It is mined near Pavlodar in Mykain. I also inlay with corals and agate. People like my work, including such bracelets. They are popular among tourists. These are buttons. Look at how pretty they are. They are like a jewelry legend, Fabergé eggs. These are ancient buttons. Our ancestors made them in the 19th and 18th centuries before the famous pieces of Karl Fabergé. This is the pommel for the banner, 18th century. It followed our batters and rulers, and here the flag fluttered. After graduation, I started working in Almaty Central Museum. It was the 90s, hard times. People brought antiques that they had, but at that time the museum had no available means to buy them. And it immediately became clear to me these were the priceless things for our history. I was afraid that they would be lost or sold abroad. Therefore, I began to buy them from people, given everything that I earned. For a quarter of a century, I have been collecting ancient, rare things. This is the highest reward for jewelers, Diamond Award of Karl Fabergé. I'm proud that in Kazakhstan, I'm the only one who has received this award, such an honor. But this is the Order of the Honorable Jeweler of the Muslim world. This is the order number 2. The first one was given to a jeweler from the Crimea. Oh, Ayake, assalamu alaikum. How are you? Good. Come on in. I brought you something. These are silver cups. Yes, yes. Inside, they're also gold-plated. In general, we did not make silverware in Kazakhstan, so I had to order it from Mongolia. Earlier, the Mongols men ate and drank only from silver dishes. Such are their traditions. My guest's name is Jibek. Famous person. He collects watches. He helps me a lot. As soon as he sees Kazakh vintage items, he immediately brings them to me. I bought cups from a Russian grandmother and immediately decided to bring them to Beke. Ayake, I'm inviting you to tea. Thank you. You never let me go without a treat. Oh, well done, baby. How are you? Did you come to visit your grandfather? Yes. Good job. My grandchildren. Ayake wears my presents all the time. Yes, Becky gave me it 6 to 7 years ago. I have not taken them off since. And Becky also gave this ring to me. I've been wearing it since. The Golden Man was found in 1969 in the Issyk Mound. This is a copy of the jewelry found with him. Let's drink tea with Barsaks. This is the mother of my children, Gulnar. She's my right hand, my support in all matters. All that I have achieved is the merit of Gulnar. She supports me in all beginnings. Since the early age, I started my collection. Before we lived in rented apartments, we slept on the floor, and I spent all my money to buy old bracelets, rings, and so on. But my wife never objected, so I achieved everything thanks to her understanding. Yes, there are very few such people. Many people do not understand. Exactly, so I really appreciate it. And this young man's name is Jibek. He's like a son to us. He's also my student. He really likes the folk art. We are always glad to see new students. Our doors are always open to them. They come from different parts of our country and study with us for 5 to 6 months. The wife of the jeweler Gulnar is also a craftswoman. She has inherited the ability to sew clothes from her mother, but she has dedicated her life to support her husband and to educate gifted children.
үй болдық.
We have been married for 30 years. Bekan was engaged in his favorite business since his student years by collecting antiques. I remember once he bought home a medieval saber and hung it on the wall in the most prominent place. Those were the days when the local policemen were constantly checking homes and those who lived there. And tenants were on special control. And during one of those checks, the policeman saw a saber and immediately confiscated it. My husband has been dragged to the police station for 2 months, asked why he keeps cold weapons at home. We had situations like that. Fortunately, educated people, teachers helped us. They defended Bekan, said that the craftsman needed to study the ancient art and that my spouse did nothing wrong, thanks to them. My eldest daughter is also engaged in art. She's married and has children. But she continues her studies and we support it. She has a natural talent. Some people learn for years while my husband and children are gifted from birth. Here she is, our eldest daughter. Her name is Anal, not Anal, but Anal, which means song and people. Letter B as the song of her people. That is the meaning Bekan have put in the name. Here she's 4 years old. She started painting at the age of 3. She drew mostly girls in Kazakh national headdresses, saukele, with different ornaments. When she was a child, she used to say she wants to become a fashion designer. Her wish came true. These are also our children. Our elder son is a favorite of his grandfather, and he's also gifted.
Ол да өнерге жақын істеймін десе, қолынан 10 да келеді.
Fairs and exhibitions are the exact places where you can show the goods to people and present samples of your art. Derek Alibai and his students take part in all important Kazakh and international exhibitions of the achievements of folk artisans, and the public always accepts the pieces of museum treasuries with gratitude and admiration. These are buttons, not earrings? Ah, those? No, it's a shekelek decoration for the bride's headdress, saukele. See, that's how it was attached. It was attached only to the saukele. Here are the bracelets. Earlier they were worn on both hands. Our ancestors did not eat anything made by a woman without the silver ring or bracelet because they knew about the useful properties of silver, that it kills germs. Is this an ancient piece of jewelry or did you make it yourself? No, we did it ourselves. I thought it was old. No, I did everything. Give me this bracelet. You did finish it, right? Well, how did it happen? Did you have difficulties with the head of this snow leopard? Oh, it turned out good. Today, many people visited the exhibition. It is evident that they highly appreciate the pieces in which they see the preservation of our traditions. This is our goal. We want the Kazakh people not to forget their rich culture. That's why we participate in such exhibitions. Since the ancient times, the main culinary dish in Uzbekistan is considered to be pilaf. True gourmets remember, of course, such dishes as lagman, narin, and samsa, but every dish is abundantly seasoned with greens. In April, usually, it is mador, a unique herb with healing properties. Its name is translated as energy, strength. The mador grows high in the mountains in the vicinity of the small town of Parkent, located near Tashkent, not far from the highland village of Sukak. This herb is sold at its bazaars. Here, the numerous cafes make samsa with mador. And although you can cook a lot of different dishes with mador, the main delicacy is triangular samsa made of puff pastry with stuffing. It is also the reason why tens of thousands of people from all over Uzbekistan come to this area during the spring. What is this? It is a herb called mador. And what do people do with it? Eating? I've never tried it. And what do they do with it? Fry? With the eggs? No, not with the eggs. It will be delicious if you put it in the samsa. And when does this herb grow? It grows in the spring. Really? How much? One bunch is 6,000. A little expensive. Yesterday I saw 3,000. It is 6,000 because yesterday it was raining. So it's more expensive after the rain. Does it somehow harm Mador? No, here, look. What a beautiful bunch. Photo artist Rustam Hajibayev, a native of Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan, lived in Tashkent before moving to Moscow. With a budding photographer, Kamila Ismagilova, they traveled around Uzbekistan taking pictures of nature and folk traditions. And of course, they had to come to Parkent to taste spring dishes made with the mador. We are eating sukok samsa. This is a green samsa currently very famous in Uzbekistan. This is the most tourist route, I would say culinary one. About 2 weeks ago, we already came here to Sukok and we tried samsa. But instead of mador, it was made with spinach. Now the mador is finally ripe and we are trying the real Sukok's mador samsa. The mador grows high in the mountains. For culinary needs, it is collected by local residents. I've been going to mountains since 7 years old to collect mador. This is a very difficult task to collect by one pedal. We had situations when we stayed in the pouring rain. It takes around 3 hours to climb in the mountains and the same amount to go back. Do you see how far they are? Every time we go 7 or 8 kilometers by a walk, we overcome such distance for this delicacy. After the men went to the mountains and brought home mador, the women processed this herb to later use as a filling for baking. We separate the mador from the herbs, which we do not need. Now we cut it finely, and then add the scallion or onion. If we want, we can add a dumba, tail, fat or meat, so it will only taste better. This herb is very useful for health. It is used to maintain the energy and strength. It improves immunity and is very rich in vitamins. You can cook in the oven, but the best way to make it is the clay oven, tandır or tandoor. Some families clean and cut the mador, others make the samsa from puff pastry, stuffing it with this grass and then baking it in a traditional clay oven tandoor. First I roll out the dough. I need the usual dough. The daughter puts the mador stuffing and makes samsa, which we will then bake in the tandoor. After finely cutting mador and adding onions, we pour the filling with cotton oil and then we shape it like this. Fire in the tandoor is maintained with the help of logs and dry twigs. Samsa is stuck to clay walls and it is baked until a golden crust is formed. Surprisingly tasty and substantial. I highly recommend it. The master of photography Rustam Hajibayev compared the unique landscapes of Parkent and Sukak with the landscapes of Italian Tuscany and even proposed to include a unique Mador Samsa to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage because he was so amazed by the sight of culinary tourism in Uzbekistan combined with the purest mountain air.